So we're going to do a bit of a review today for the new Callaway Ai150 iron. So they've had the 200, 300, and then previously the Apex Pro, which is the one this is replacing. But has it retained the good characteristics of the Apex Pro, just with more yardage, or is it a totally different animal? Check it out. So with the introduction of the Ai150, this replaces the Apex Pro. The Pro model was really about a little more control, a little bit more flight, but ultimately it left a big gap to the Ai200. So there was a little bit of a power outage. I mean, it was a good club hit if you wanted to retain flight and spin, but actually it kind of fell back behind a little bit, and there was, say, a bit of a yawning gap to the kind of distance you could get out of the Ai200. So what has changed? Well, the Pro is geared mainly about consistency, really kind of reined the tech back and made it about height and spin, which is important, but actually Apex Pro's always been about distance. It's been a players club, but it's been quite hot, and that's something that really, unfortunately, the previous model Apex Pro just kind of lost a little bit. So what we've gone to here, you've got the cup face technology, you've got a forged cup face technology in the 7 iron and up. 8 to pitch, you lose that because we don't need the extra ball speed in the lower irons, but from a 7 iron and up, we've got that faster face, thinner, faster material, more speed. The face kind of rolls into, it's kind of an L shape into the sole, which again, that makes the bottom end of the face a little bit faster, retains ball speed there, because that's often where a lot of players strike it. So you want to improve contact low on the face. So that's really about maximizing ball speed at the bottom of the face. We've got tungsten down the bottom, so there's a load of weight down that bottom end of the head. Again, get the CG down, get that flight up. Again, just generally helps a little bit with ball speed, putting the mass down the bottom as well. Got that weight pad in the back as well. That also helps a little bit of the tuning of the head, where it is a hollow body design. Again, stiffer frame, thinner, faster face, but trying to use that weight badge at the back just to dampen that sound down a little bit, keeping it feeling as soft as possible. It is a forged frame, so again, you've got that softer metal in the framing of the face, or the head, sorry, which keeps that tone and that note just a little bit softer. It's going for feel, the ability to manipulate loft and lie. So all the things that the player in the player's end of the spectrum of heads that we're looking for out of this model is an interesting two-tone back to it. So if I compare that side by side with the Ai200, which is all a kind of a satin matte finish, what we have is a chrome bottom half to the head and then a satin top half. So it's quite an interesting look. Some might call it striking. Obviously you don't see that from a dress position, but it's certainly an interesting usage of the two different finishes on the back of the head. And then looking down on it, it's a little bit more rounded in the toe line than they have done in the past. Something that Callaway have done a few models back, but a little more rounded in the toe. And then we've got the polished face, the chrome polished face on this one, whereas it's a slightly softer satin finish on the 200 again. So you've gone more down the chromed route, which again their Pro models have historically had. Really kind of highlights the face. That can help a little bit with alignment, but certainly framing of the ball, really important for that. So incorporating that thinner face, L cup, L face technology, tungsten positioning, hollow body. But let's find out what that means data-wise. So as we talked about the tech in the head, at address, it is a fairly compacted. I think that's something that, with this kind of style of head, very much that kind of player's end of the spectrum, that neater, cleaner top line is an important thing. It's something that all the brands do. A little bit less offset on this head than the Ai200. So again, that's catering to the player that doesn't want to look like the head's going to create a draw bias. Offset's really it's associated with higher flight and more of a draw bias setup. So it's something that the kind of verticals better players generally prefer to see a little bit less of, which is why they tend to look a little neater in that profile into the player's end of the spectrum. I'd say that a little bit more of a rounded toe, that is something that does stand out. The chroming actually kind of masks some of that frame shape because it reflects the grass, which ironically a lot of the brands use in their driving irons on the back so that it reflects the turf. You don't see the scale of the head. So actually you focus generally on the patch of the face that's matted down, that's the impact zone. But a very clean, neat head shape behind the ball. So they're focusing on trying to improve, get the feel right of this head. So to hit with, how does that actually feel off the face? Well, it still has quite a bit of clickiness off it, and it's not instinctively obvious that it's a forged frame. I would say, there's plenty of tungsten in this head, there's plenty of tech in it. The hollow construction does give off that little bit of clickiness. So it's something that, the Pro series that went before definitely had a little bit more of a toned down sound and feel. Personally, I'll hit one more. You generally use that kind of sound to make it feel fast off the face. My own preference would have been for that to be a bit softer. I think for where it's at from a construction, from a design point of view, and the other heads that it's up against, I think there are other heads that have a bit of a nicer feel. My own personal opinion rather than fact, obviously, but I'd like this to have a slightly softer sound to it. But ball speed wise, it's a strong head. That wasn't particularly middle. It's certainly pretty forgiving. And there is a little bit of give and take in terms of you gain forgiveness. Most of the time you have to lose a little bit of that softness of feel because you gain forgiveness by putting weight on the extremities of the head. So the more mass, the more tungsten's used heel and toe, it's a harder, more dense material. It's going to create a clickier sound. So I do get that there is that bit of a seesaw of, do you want soft feel or do you want margin of error? It's very hard to get both. So, going back to hitting a couple more shots with it, it's quite, that tone, that note gives it a bit of explosiveness to about it. I mean, that last shot, looking at the data there, smash of 146, that's pretty strong. So the main critique of the previous model was it wasn't fast enough. So they have given us that speed back. But as I said earlier, you get that speed, you get that thinner, faster face, it's going to sound a little harder. But that's quite a punchy performance. It's 27 as a stock loft. It's on the stronger side. So again, they've gone towards distance being the focus. But the give up for me is that little bit of feedback. So give it one more hit there. Some of these aren't particularly middle. I think that is actually something to note with this, is that last one was not out the center of the head. Hasn't really dropped back a lot. So the upside of that feel aspect, lots of consistency from the head. This isn't my finest display of ball striking by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a good consistent ball speed off this head. So let's have a little look at the data. I've done some with the Ai200 already. We'll get a comparison with that. But actually, you have to merit it with a cross-face performance. Does seem really pretty good. Let's check the numbers out. So overall, as a player's distance iron, I think what we have is actually a very strong head, but it's very much owing towards the distance element of it. So you're getting the comparison here between the Ai150, this head, and the 200 below. There's a heck of a lot of consistency there and similarity. So yes, the loft on the 200 is 1 degree stronger on average, or is standard. That 1 degree is only a couple of yards, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. Club speed, very similar. Ball speed, it's pretty much on a par with it. So there's no real loss of ball speed dropping from the Ai200, which is very much more towards the game improvement, the kind of distance iron end of things, to the player's distance iron here. Ball speed's very, very comparable. That smash of 143 to 144, almost identical. Basically just over half a mile an hour ball speed difference. So, launch angle, again, 1 degree more loft, it's 3/4 degree higher launch and 200 revs of spin. It's exactly kind of what we look for from that 1 degree of difference. So really, it's performance-wise very, very similar, but in a smaller frame, in a neater package. And this is slightly where my confusion comes with this, is that, whilst it's great that the ball speed's there, for me, I'd have wanted to see a little bit more of a differential here in that kind of spin profile. Yes, the consistency is good. Both of them have, the tolerance on spin's very good. Around the couple of 100 rev mark, that's really not too bad at all. But in terms of separating the heads off, what we now have is a massive gap between this and the CB. So my only confusion with this is really, you've got an Ai200 in a smaller package, but actually have we lost an element of the Pro series? And really is the distinction between the heads enough to really kind of separate them off other than just the scale and the size of the head. Yes, the AI200 technically is that little bit more forgiving, being bigger and a little bit more tungsten. You've got a bit more margin of error, but you've got two heads that pretty much give you the same ball flight. Now, rowing back on that and say, well, where this head really performed better than I think I might have expected it to, I'm going to go into a particular shot, this shot here, so where the smash factors drop down a bit. If I show you the strike point, that's low heel. So that's really not a very good contact. But the spin profile, the launch angle's very, very similar. It's retained ball flight really, really well. And yes, it's dropped ball speed. If it didn't out of that part of the head, I think I'd wonder what the heck Callaway have managed to do, because it's almost impossible not to. So where it's retained a lot of performance, a lot of flight consistency, that's a massive tick box in this head. So if you're wanting a neater head shape, retaining ball flight consistency, then this is actually a really wonderful product. However, I'm just not sure, the balance of where it sits within their range is where I would have put it personally. But yes, they've gained a load of ball speed over the Pro. Yes, they've definitely gained margin of error across the face over the Pro. So, that leap forwards from we were all crying out for a bit more shot value out of it. Well, they've given that stat in spades. But like all fitters, we want our cake and eat it. I'd like to see a little bit more spin out of it. You can add loft, so you can move the hosel, you can make the base loft, potentially take it up to 29 degrees, and that's going to give you more ball flight. But in terms of where it sits as a standard product, for me, it's a little close to the AI200. There's a lot of great tech in here, and don't deny that the numbers, the ball speed, and the consistency across the face is very, very good. Just not quite sure it sits where I would have put it within the balance of flight. So in summary, what do we really think about the Ai150? Well, I think there are characteristics over the Pro that they've really improved. Ball speed, strength of flight, distance, across the face performance. There are actually some really big key ticks for this, in that across the face and in consistency of forgiveness, it's in a good spot. For me, relative to the 200 that we were giving it a comparison to, it's just a bit too similar in flight. I think for what I'd like to see from a fitting bay point of view is a bit more of a balance of spin progression and flight progression, rather than, quite frankly, it's just a bit of a battering ram for me. But that's only my opinion. If it does what Callaway wanted to do, if it's doing the job that they set forth for it, great. I just personally would have liked to seen a little bit more subtlety to the flight, a little more softness, rather than it just basically punching out miles. But will it go a long way? Absolutely. So from that point of view, great job to Callaway. If you've enjoyed this video, then check out this one we did on the Titleist T series, the new ones, blending the iron sets and how they match and what's the best way to blend them. Check that video out. And if you've enjoyed this content and want to see that one as well, then subscribe, hit the like button and check out that content and let us know what else you want to see as well.